Welcome back to Local Decision 2020. I'm Rusty Ray, and we're joined now by a candidate for Centennial School Board. It's Gina Schmittdiel. Gina, thank you for being here.
Yes, thank you for having me.
And you and your family live in Centerville.
We do.
Tell us more about your family.
I've been married for 6.5 years to my husband, Brian. He's in the Air Force. He's a reservist, and he owns his own business. He works out of our basement, so COVID didn't change too much of that, which was kind of nice, except for all of the feet stamping around the house.
Yes.
We have a 5.5-year-old son, Deacon, who's in kindergarten, and then an almost 4-year-old son, Gunnar, and a 7-week-old little girl named Layla.
A busy house.
Very much so.
What is it about Centennial School District? Is this the reason you moved to Centerville?
Yeah, yep. We closed on our house, I think, like 2 weeks before our wedding, so that was really fun. Yeah, we chose it because of the school district. We were definitely looking in the North Metro, rating-wise, and just really wanted to be in a nice school district, and Centennial was up there, and we're happy with our choice.
And what can you say about COVID and Centennial's handling of it? It's a far-reaching and so many different aspects to what it's done with families and with learning and things like that. But what can you say about Centennial's district-wise?
Centennial's done a good job. I do appreciate that they're sticking with the hybrid model because they know that they can do it long-term. So they chose hybrid because they know that it can be successful throughout the entire year. At least we're hoping, instead of going one way and then back and whatnot. We did choose a different school for our son for kindergarten so he could go 5 days a week. He just needs that structure, and it was just a better fit for him this year. Our long-term goal, though, is to get him back into Centennial since we do love the district.
So if not for this current situation, your son would be attending.
Right.
If everything was normal, it would be back in.
Yeah.
I know a big part of your family's life and a big part of what you're involved in is with the Down Syndrome a society or association?
Down Syndrome Association of Minnesota. Yep.
And tell me more about your involvement with that group.
So our almost 4-year-old Gunnar has Down syndrome, and we found out prenatally. So when I was maybe 20 weeks along or so, found out that he had a heart defect that needed correction after he was born, and then along with that news that he had Down syndrome. So we kind of delved into finding out more about Down syndrome, what does that mean, and really ever since that diagnosis we've been huge advocates. No one ever expects to get unexpected news in their pregnancy. So I remember calling my friend, and everyone takes that news differently, and I remember crying but being like, I know it's not bad. There's really good things to come from this, and it's been like that our entire lives of having him so far.
I would imagine doing that so quickly and getting involved in that way opened up a community for you and your family that is probably wonderful and important for you.
It's the most favorite thing that everyone will say about having a child with Down syndrome is the community. It's that extra chromosome almost like makes you family just from the start. So our community has been amazing. My husband and I, with a couple other families in our community, lead a group in the North Metro here, actually right down the road, once a month. Obviously with COVID now that's virtual. I'm on their board, so I help direct what our programs are doing, and then I also help with what's called the Step Up for Down syndrome. It's our biggest fundraiser, and we just raised over $225,000 for that, so we can really give back to our community in that big way also.
Where do you see Centennial School District in inclusion in that regard for children who may be like Gunnar or other areas of need or IEPs? I know you've written a little bit about that on our materials at northmetrotv.com. Inclusion is really something that you are looking at and you're talking a lot about.
It's very important to me, especially when it comes from preschool and getting kids included at the youngest age possible. Inclusion is something that should be happening right from the get-go, so then those kids aren't seen as different or others, is a word that I've used. The world is diverse, so how can we set those kids up for success from the beginning so they're included with their same age peers? And those peers are going to adapt also. It's just including all kids of all different backgrounds and abilities should be happening right from preschool. What
do you know about the schools in your area? What do you know about Centennial and the way it's addressed there, or efforts or programs there?
They're doing a really good job. I mean, they're definitely up there. There is room for improvement, as anywhere can be. I mean, I obviously know more about inclusion and about how it affects our family because it truly affects us. But the teachers are amazing. all of the program admins and all the teachers are doing a really good job of getting Gunner included in the classes. He's in the 3-year-old preschool classroom this year, so his first true year of preschool.
Within the early child or
Yep, Rice
pre-K
Lake at the preschool. Yep.
Okay.
Centennial preschool.
Is that the main thrust to get you to run for school board? Are there other things that you would like to see addressed, or are there other ways that you would like to be involved should you be able to have that leadership position?
Yeah, I mean, that's the thing that I know I can bring the most to the board is my knowledge on that. So that's what I'm hoping that I can bring to the board. But I also, that racial equity is a really important piece to me also. Layla is adopted and she's Black, so making sure that she also has a place and a voice in our schools is really important. And just making sure that our funding is equitable throughout the state also. Centennial District, we don't have a lot of businesses, especially Centerville, our specific elementary school. We have a couple of pizza shops, which are great. But the funding is a really important thing for me also.
Right. Well, that's the big topic, and certainly with the economic situation, given COVID and what it's done to the economy, that's going to be a challenge for schools everywhere, but certainly in Minnesota and certainly in this part of the metro. Are there ways to look at what the district can do? Tax levies have been a thing. You've lived here long enough to have seen a couple of those come through and have voted for or against those. So is that the only formula you think there is for success, is to continually ask taxpayers to tack on a little bit more and a little bit more and a little bit more?
I don't think so. We already have I think we're the second highest in Anoka County. I mean, we have very high taxes. And it's not the only option that we have. Going down to the Capitol, talking to the people that represent our state and our district is really important to see what other options we have.
What role does a school or a school district or school leadership, particularly in a district like this, the size that this is, and kind of the demographic and the geographic makeup, it's kind of spread out over a few of these smaller towns. What role does a school provide in establishing community, and in a case of a situation like we found ourselves in this year with a lot of people focused on relations and inclusion, as you've deemed it and have kind of lumped it in there with that? Where does the school go with setting the tone for that in a given community?
It starts inside the school. So the books that we're providing, the teachers that we have, the curriculum that we're teaching, all of that's going to be important for setting the tone for what diversity and inclusion looks like in our school.
What do you think about how Centennial's got different things? We talked to a couple of candidates about the Systems Accountability Committee and just different efforts of getting parents involved, dialogue with people who work in the schools, whether they be administrators or teachers or the school board itself. Do you feel like Centennial, no matter what it is, even without COVID and without the racial tensions and all the other things on people's minds in 2020, do you feel like Centennial does a good job of engaging that community input and helping that to make decisions, or do you think that they could do more in that regard?
I think they do a good job. I mean, again, we're only 1 year into kindergarten, a couple years of ECFE and preschool in there, but everything that we've brought up so far has been addressed and taken into consideration of what the family wants for their child. So I do think they do a good job of that.
What is it about, did you say you grew up in Forest Lake and you went to schools there?
I did.
Growing up? What is it about your experience growing up or your husband's that shape how you want your children's schools, good or bad? How does that shape what you want for your children?
You know, my husband was in White Bear. I was in Forest Lake, so we're kind of on both ends of the sandwich in the middle, being in Centennial here. I think it's pretty similar population-wise. I think White Bear is getting a little bit more diverse, which is really nice. Forest Lake was okay. I went to Columbus Elementary, which was kind of on the outskirts, so I had a really good elementary opportunity. And high school was fine for me. I chose to do PSEO my junior and senior years because I was kind of out of there. And I mean, from what we know of Centennial, we did not want to choose either White Bear or Forest Lake for our children. What we know of Centennial, they're doing a good job, and that's why we chose them.
In this quest for this seat, have you been able to talk to people and get your name out there? You got some yard signs and things like that. I've checked out your social media. You're engaging people, even asking them what questions that we should ask you or whatever. And that's great. I mean, that's the way to engage, especially with a pandemic and masks and distancing and stuff like that. What have you learned? Have you been able to find out some things about the community or talk to people and maybe get some perspectives that maybe you weren't as in tune with?
I mean, the COVID thing has definitely come up. That's what someone asked today. It's like how are private schools, which we chose for our son, open, and the public schools aren't able to. And I don't have the answer for that. I just know that they could be open, so that's where we sent him.
I mean, I saw your thread there. I thought that you answered it pretty well, and that's how I knew to ask about that, because we saw that engagement there. So that's an opportunity for everybody to kind of learn something from each other, and I would assume that that would continue as you continue to seek this seat.
Absolutely, yeah. I really just want the community's input, and whatever they can teach me, I want to know. If I don't know as much about an opportunity or a subject, then teach me. I'm an open book.
Okay. Gina Schmittdiel, thank you for being here today. We appreciate it.
Thank you so much for having me.